Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Aaron Dykes, on this broadcast of the INFOWARS Nightly News. Today is Monday, April 9th, 2012. Coming up, Rob Dew speaks with INFOWARS researcher-writer Patrick Henningsen on the Fast and Furious case and new breaking info on the Trayvon Martin shooting. First up in the news, will more than 5 billion people be killed in a post-industrial collapse of civilization? That's what some researchers are saying, echoing the propaganda from the Club of Rome dating back to 1972 and a computer model compiled by MIT researchers as part of the same project. It was covered in the SHTF plan blog and many other publications. It's based around Australian physicist Graham Turner, who's written on the subject, and my article is up at Infowars.com. Researchers claim only global government could save humanity, echoing MIT Club of Rome model for collapse. And indeed, it is at the heart behind all the rhetoric about global government. They're predicting that human consumption patterns, population growth, as well as energy consumption will all drive a peak point at which society will crumble and fall, and many people will die as a result. The only problem is they admit that it's all about world government. Unlimited economic growth, they say, is still possible if world governments enact policies and invest in green technologies that help limit the expansion of our ecological footprint. Of course, it would not be unlimited economic growth under that model. It would be a containment of the economy. It's all about Mari Strong's Agenda 21, a post-industrial civilization. They want to clamp down on humanity, not empower us. Not to say that population or our use of energy couldn't be a problem, but we're talking about the elites driving the issue back since the days of Robert Malthus, who then predicted in the late 1700s that the population would outgrow the food supply. It was actually just a way to start cracking down on people through early eugenics models. He also said we should court the return of the plague. Let's take a look at the graph itself, showing population rising to more than 9.5 billion and then gradually dying off to only about 4.5 billion, which is approximately the 1980 point. That's a death of at least 5 billion. If population rises even further, it could be even worse. However, this model, again, is not new. It's from 1972. It was criticized in the early 80s from the LaRouche Pub's Executive Intelligence Review, as well as economists Gunnar Myrdal and others. Let's see, the Intelligence Review itself said, Pecci later confessed that the club's new tool had been pre-programmed to deliver the desired conclusion. The motive for this deception, Pecci contends, is purely an altruistic one, a noble lie provided to goad them into the shock treatment necessary to compel nations to adopt measures of population control. And then the economist Gunnar Myrdal says the use of mathematical equations and a huge computer, which registers alternatives of abstractly conceived policies by a world simulation model, may impress the innocent general public, but has little, if any, scientific validity. This sort of model is actually a new tool for mankind. The idea that it's a new tool for mankind is unfortunately not true. It's a type we have for a long time had too much of. And it's just like Al Gore's correlation projections between CO2 and global temperatures. There may be a correlation, but the cause and effect is not really there. And in the case of these models, they've put in inputs to prove the results they'd like to have. What they're ruling out is all our options for alternative energy. It assumes peak oil, which itself we can cast doubt on. Bloomberg just this year reported that peak oil, that myth is really drying up as they've got all these new discoveries, shale, deep water crude, and on, not to mention all the resources in places like Alaska. Secondarily, as the Forbes blog points out about this update on the Club of Rome model, it's saying that you can't use alternative minerals or anything else, metals or anything for alternative fuels when we know we could get into these models. So it's really just assuming that the elite will continue to drive us into squalor and ultimately our own death, or We have the option of embracing this world government. I think it's kind of disgusting. You can make up your own mind by reading the studies. It's interesting to note that the first person to put out the article on Australian physicist Graham Turner was the Smithsonian Magazine, who themselves did not disclose their conflict of interest in hosting the 40th anniversary of The Limits to Growth, which is the original publication by the Club of Rome on March 1st, 2012, there in Washington, D.C. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. And of course, this is at the time when all these people are calling for global government models on different pretexts. You've seen it in the recent weeks. I won't say too much more about it. We turn now to Melinda Gates saving thousands of women's lives through contraception. And she's obviously getting heat. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is getting heat for all their activity on population control throughout the world. They're pushing for GMOs and a whole lot more. I see all kinds of critical articles written every week, every day on various related topics there. But here in this one, reported in the Seattle PI, really the hometown to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, she hinges the whole thing around how she's Catholic. And so if she represents birth control, it's not controversial, even though so many Catholics have come out strongly on this issue. Some people think contraceptives are code for abortion, which they're not. Melinda Gates said some people are uncomfortable because contraceptives have to do with sex. Some people worry that the real goal is to control populations. Well, it's admitted from all their secret billionaire meetings where Bill Gates, David Rockefeller, Soros, Ted Turner, and the rest of them, Oprah Winfrey, meet to discuss how to control the population. And the meetings are always led by Bill Gates. But this time it's not Bill Gates out in front, it's Melinda Gates. But then going back to the Club of Rome article about how we have to die because of their economic models, well, don't you remember the Bill Gates speech at the TED Talk in 2010, where he has his own formula for how one of these numbers has to get down to zero, kind of hinting that population's the best one to go with? Can we show that clip now?
So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. That's back from high school algebra. But let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, health care, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
And so he also admits that vaccines will be used to lower the population. But what it's really about, just like the quote where Bill Gates said, hire 10 teachers and kill one granny, it's about trade-offs. It's about this ethical debate of what you're willing to give up to hold your place in society. It's not about real alternatives. It's not finding real ways to change things. It's about what are you going to give up to live under the elite control paradigm. Well, they really want us all dead. They want no more than 2 billion, some of them even less. Of course, you are familiar with the Georgia Guidestones if you've seen this program before, where they say to keep humanity in balance with nature, you need no more than 500 million. Just crazy. But even crazier than that is, of course, the audio that was all over the blogosphere today about the Black Panthers, the new Black Panther Party, that is, calling for an out-and-out race war. Let's go to that clip right now.
Black Power, Brother Sean. This is Sister Michelle, Chief of Staff for Tampa, St. Petersburg, chapter of the New Black Panther Party. Black Power. I just want to say to all the listeners that's on this phone call, if you are having any doubts about getting suited, booted, and armed up for this race war that we in that has never ended, let me tell you something. The things that's about to happen to these honkies, these crackers, these pigs, these pink people, these mother purple people, it has been long overdue.
Yeah, but what she said was right. We got to suit up and boot up. We got to suit up and boot up and get prepared for the war that we're in. This stuff got to boil over. And all your greats talked about there having to be bloodshed involved with revolution. True revolution means some bloodshed. So there's blood being spilled because there's a new life that is beyond this bloodshed. There's a new reality that is built upon your original African principles and spiritualities and values and norms that is beyond this bloodshed. But we got to go through it. And as the scriptures say, you got to cross, and we're going to have to cross the Red Sea. You're going to have to cross the Red sea. I know y'all thought it was talking about some sea in some Middle Eastern part of the world. Hell no. We're talking about some blood. You're going to have to cross some blood and go through some blood and some battles. And there are those who wish they could stand in this hour to see the destruction of the devil's world and the devil's society. And I ain't talking about no dude underneath the ground with a pitchfork and pantyhose. I'm talking about that blonde-haired, blue-eyed, sometimes brown-eyed Caucasian walking around with a mindset, a demonistic mindset, and the nature to do evil and brutality.
I say to everyone that is on this call right now, I'm coming out of the gates like that greyhound on that rabbit. And his prize, my prize right now this evening is going to be the bounty, the arrest, dead or alive, for George Zimmerman. You feel me? To every brother, to every female, I am for violence if nonviolence means we continue postponing a solution to the American black man's problem just to avoid violence. You feel me? It's time to wake up. I don't know how else. It's in me to fight. It's in me to raise up soldiers. It's in me that every time my feet touch the ground, the state of Florida, these crackers, they scared. I'm telling you right now, I'm kind of pissed off right now that the state of Florida ain't on fire. This could not have happened in L.A. because them brothers up there are not scared to riot. This could not have happened in St. Petersburg, Florida, where the black men over there ain't scared to kill a cracker.
This is real. If we're attacked anywhere in the world, we would defend ourselves by any means necessary. We have proposed and we're pushing forward with a national strike and walk out on this, cracking on this beast and on these bastards. We are proposing and pushing for our people that you hit them in the pocket where it hurts. You starve capitalism. Since this racism that's being perpetuated and this brutality that's being perpetuated and this murder that's being perpetuated is built on the table legs of capitalism, you got to starve capitalism. What you're saying is real. An active war has been declared on us. We don't have no choice but to fight. But I want to say that we have to be trained how to fight. See, the whole purpose of the maneuvers that's happening in Sanford is to train in self-defense, because many of us think we're prepared for a battle, just like many of us think we're prepared for a fight. But if you are not training, if you're not stocking up water, if you're not stocking up food, if you're not stocking up weapons and artillery and survival, books and gas,